Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's the Leylo show, and I'm back. All right, so I had to take a little hiatus real quick. I was working on a movie and a documentary. If those who don't know, I do editing, video production. So yeah, that's that's what I was doing for the last few months, and plus I had to move. I just had a lot going on, but we got all that out the way. Fix this mic here, this camera, and yeah. But the Leylo show, I'm back. All right, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get all the new alerts coming up. Hey, we got a lot of catching up to do. Man, shout out to Young Thug. Shout out to Young Thug. For those who don't know, I predicted that Young Thug would win or go home. I predicted he would go home. I predicted that about almost a year ago. I also predicted that Trump would win the election about the same time. Matter of fact, in the same video. But we're going to get into that later. Let's catch up on some of this news, though. All right, let's go.
We are now.
So, a few days ago, there was an attack in New Orleans. There was a guy who drove a truck into the crowd, ended up unaliving 15 people. Let's just start from the top.
Taking a live look at Bourbon Street in New Orleans, where a man from Houston intentionally plowed a pickup truck into a crowd just hours into the new year. Investigators are calling the incident an act of terror. And officials say at least 14 people and the driver are dead. Dozens more were injured. Investigators believe the attack may have been inspired by ISIS. We caution some of the images you're about to see may be disturbing. Here's ABC's Lionel Moise.
This morning, the careful work of gathering evidence continues just over 24 hours after carnage on New Orleans' most famous street. New video shows the speed of the pickup truck that plowed into people, killing at least 15 and injuring many more.
We have dozens of people that got hit by this car.
Surveillance video shows the truck flying an ISIS flag coming down Canal Street around 3:15 a.m. before turning onto Bourbon and speeding into the crowd.
We ran one way, so like about 5 feet away from the curb, and we ran into the bar to be protected by the little divot.
Authorities identifying the suspect as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen and Army veteran from Texas, who they say was inspired by.
It's pronounced Shamsuddin. Yeah, I know this because I practice Islam, but it's pronounced Shamsuddin. But anyway,
ISIS to kill. They say he was speeding down Bourbon wearing body armor and firing an AR-style rifle out of the truck, racing about 3 blocks before crashing, stepping out and opening fire again, wounding 2 police officers. Inside that rented Ford F-150, authorities say they found multiple homemade pipe bombs packed with nails. Sources tell ABC News.
Wow, look at the bullet holes. Look at the bullet holes in the back of that truck. Man.
Sources tell ABC News on that flagpole is a black flag bearing the ISIS insignia. A fire at an Airbnb near Bourbon Street yesterday morning is now reportedly being linked to Jabbar. Officials say it appears explosive devices associated with the attack were made at that property. Officials say steel bollards installed on the street were unreliable and were in the process of being replaced.
Yeah, so these are the steel bars that were supposed to have been up during the time the attack happened, but they, from what I understand, they were malfunctioning that day. And I, which is weird to me because if you're gonna have an event like that on Bourbon Street, you gotta fix that. You gotta fix, and they know that. They know that. So I don't. It malfunctioning. I just don't believe it. But whatever.
Placed ahead of the Super Bowl in February, vehicles had been placed as blockades, but there were gaps.
We had barriers there, we had officers there, and they still got around. So we did indeed have a plan, but the terrorists defeated it.
City officials say they questioned the construction timeline, wondering why the replacement didn't happen months ago.
This construction should have happened much earlier, and everything really should have been ready and in place, fixed, repaired, ready to go now.
Lionel Moyes, ABC News, New York.
And if you don't know, like, the Super Bowl is going to be in New Orleans this year. Shout out to New Orleans. All right, so let's go over to the Tesla truck attack. And we're gonna go deep into this, these two situations. So bear with me. But let's see what's going on with the Tesla situation.
Tonight, the motive and final days of Matthew Livelsberger coming into sharper focus.
Matthew Livelsberger. Let's remember that name.
Ultimately appears to be a tragic case of suicide involving a heavily decorated combat veteran who is struggling with PTSD and other issues.
Authorities laying out an extensive forensic accounting of the scene, explaining how they found his wallet and IDs charred but preserved under debris.
That's strange. He went to do an attack by blowing up something, but he had his passport on him. Now, me being as an ex-criminal, like back in the days when me and my friends, we used to commit crimes, like, that's the first thing that we would not do is have our ID on us. Main reason, like, we didn't want to drop it while we were trying to get away or whatever, like, especially if we had to run or whatever. We didn't want to drop it. So just watching this is just really confusing because I don't know. But anyway, continue.
Displaying
It's
notes
just
from his
confusing.
burned up
I don't
phone,
know.
saying the Army Master Sergeant did not have any grudge against Donald Trump, but with the state of the country.
He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves.
Authorities confirming through DNA and matching tattoos, the 37-year-old was the one inside the Tesla Cybertruck when it exploded, which they believe happened at the same time he shot himself. They also shared new images of Livelsberger at a Tesla charging station, adding data shows the car was not in self-driving mode.
So I heard that Elon Musk provided the camera footage for the test. Let's look at it. Hold on. Let's finish this video.
With questions mounting over the timing, the FBI stressing there is no known connection between Livelsberger, the New Orleans suspect, or any other terrorist organization. Meanwhile, a former girlfriend telling NBC News she received this video from the Green Beret inside what appears to be the rented Cybertruck just days before the explosion. Alicia Arrett telling NBC News the communication began with a text last week telling her he rented the Cybertruck.
I was surprised, especially when I knew he was already married, and I thought he was happy.
Arrett sharing the two dated for several years, bonding over a love of the outdoors, describing him as respectful, driven, and playful.
He was so funny. That was what caught me and drew me in. And it was just like instant chemistry with us.
The messages continued. At 9 a.m. Tuesday, Livelsberger texting, "I rented a Tesla Cybertruck. It's the expletive," followed minutes later by, "I feel like Batman or Halo." The messaging, including the video inside the truck, continuing till New Year's Eve, when Arrett says he went quiet. She found out about the bombing when she says she was contacted by the FBI.
Something not right with that, because, okay, so he's responsible for the situation at the Trump Tower, right? Okay, cool. But why would he be posting that he rented a truck, beforehand? If excuse me, excuse me, if he planned all this out, like why is he riding around as if like he's going on vacation,
Continuing till New Year's Eve.
making posts, Instagram posts, and of him having a good time in the Tesla? Because I know if I had planned on doing something like this is just speaking from a criminal mind or ex-criminal mind, that I wouldn't even be online anywhere. I wouldn't be telling people. I don't know.
Eve, when Aaron says he went quiet. She found out about the bombing when she says she was contacted by the FBI.
I don't know what drove him to it. I've just been rolling it around in my head for 2 days.
Aaron says Livelsberger was never violent towards her, but often complained of extreme pain following multiple back surgeries, among other issues.
He would have headaches. He had some memory loss and trouble concentrating. I know he had some trouble.
Military records show Livelsberger won many commendations, but was never awarded a Purple Heart. He did, however, serve on multiple deployments, including Afghanistan in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Today in Las Vegas, investigators say as they search for a potential motive, the decorated veteran ended with this.
I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took.
And Morgan joins us now live. So, Morgan, we know questions have been raised over Livelsberger's medical.
Okay, Livelsbergers. That's his name. Livelsbergers. Okay, Matthew Livelsbergers. Let's do some homework on him. And just let you know, man, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button. If you're interested in videos where people are fighting people, gang activity, anything that, degrades our people, like, you're on the wrong page. I don't do that over here. I'm not talking about nothing that's going on in the street activity, active cases and stuff, unless it's something on this level. But like, cause it's just so much going on in the world right now that the people need to be paying attention to more important things right now, and I just don't see why. Anyway, moving on. So Livensberger, yeah, let's check him out. Livensberger, it's not much on him. Livensberger. Let's go to Google. What's Google's man? Livensberger. Livensbergers. Yeah, he seemed like a family guy. The woman thought to be the wife of Cybertruck attack suspect Matthew Livensberger has been linked to anti-Donald Trump comment. I followed his Twitter just to get my morning motivation to kill someone. What? That's what he said? Where's that tweet? He said that tweet? I follow his Twitter just to get my morning motivation to unlive someone. Anti-Donald Trump Facebook comment. Quiet matters. I know you guys can probably see if I can fix that. Can't see that. I got you. Quiet matters. I got you, my people. All right. Investigators are currently working to try to determine whether the Las Vegas attack could be politically motivated or it has links to New Orleans. this is a strange story. Like, we got to dig deeper into this. But with that being said, let's go over to my man, Sean Ryan. Shout out to Sean Ryan. So Sean Ryan, I've been watching him for a while now. He's getting a lot of attention lately because of a interview that he did with CIA targeter Sarah Adams. Okay, and make sure you go like and subscribe on his channel and check him out. But the most recent one is the one with Sam Shoemate.
Once Human is easily one of the best open world survival games of
who got a letter from Livensberger before his attack. So let's get into that.
I'm nervous about this one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really nervous about this one. So yesterday I come into work and our stuff's been exploding because of the Sarah Adams, had Sarah Adams, Scott Mann, legend, did an interview.
Shout out to Sean Ryan and Sarah Adams for making the internet go crazy. Make sure y'all go to his page and check out that full interview, man. But yeah, let's get back to this one.
With Masood kind of warning everybody about it's going to be a lot of terrorism here in 2025. Didn't take long. Jan 1, it hit. And, it's interesting. We couldn't get any mainstream media's outlets to pay attention to those interviews. And nobody would really give Sarah a voice. Now everybody wants to give Sarah a voice.
Let's fast forward to the email. All right. So this guy received the email from Livensberg, Matthew Livensberg, the Cybertruck guy. And let's see what it says.
You're here today because of an email you received from Matthew Livelsberger a couple of days before the Cybertruck bombing at Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. You'll also be able to discuss what you know about the terrorists who conducted the New Orleans attack. Did I miss anything?
No, that sums it up. Yeah. Perfect. I'll give a background on why that's significant so your viewers understand how this came into my inbox.
Perfect. One other thing that I just wanted to say to the audience is even though we are redacting these names from the episode, you passed that, I believe you passed that email on to the FBI.
Yes.
We're also going to pass it on to our contacts at the FBI. It's very obvious that people know it. Like I said, the CID has been telling everybody. In fact, we talked to Jeremy, who's sitting over there, my producer, me, him, and my attorney, Tim Parlatore. We're up till about...
Is there to protect the command.
This guy's... How you got the email.
All right, so for context, I've run this account for the last 4.5 years. There have been people in and out writing articles and different stuff and just investigations, some big, some small, just trying to keep accountability in the military, but developed a robust network within the military, all branches, and people feed into this and send me messages and here and there. Nothing ever like this has ever come in. But well, it started off as comments. So when you have a big Instagram account, you're going to miss a lot of messages because people message, go to hidden messages and everything else. You miss a lot of stuff. Well, I kept seeing this comment on recent posts that I put in there, and it was from this burner account that said, hey, check your DMs, check your DMs, check your DMs. So I go in there and try to find it. There's no message from this guy, hadn't come through or whatever. And then he messages again once that message was opened up. And I said, hey, your previous messages haven't come through. What do you want to tell me? And he said, what I'm going to send you, now these are literally his words, what I'm going to send you is going to change the course of humanity. That was his phrase, change the course of humanity. Okay, a little bit dramatic. I get these messages all the time. People have this big story they want to tell. They want to expose their command, whatever. I take everything with a grain of salt until I have evidence and proof. So this guy is insistent. He tells me that he is a 18 Zulu who I've spoken to before, and he really needs to get this stuff to me. And then he talks about you. He says, I need you to get me in contact with Sean Ryan. I'm like, dude, I don't know Sean Ryan. I'm not that big, but he's insistent that I get him.
Well, for context, like you said, this guy, these are all military dudes. Like, I do believe Sean Ryan and maybe ex-military as well. But they all kind of work together. They have their own, like, email circuit that they use, together. And it's all protected stuff. So this is their way of communicating with each other. So as we know that Matthew Livensburg was ex-military. So, well, he was active military. But yeah, let's keep going.
Diverted to media sources, says go to Fox News, whatever else. And I said, all right, tell me what you got. So I give him my Proton email account, give him my signal number. And he reaches out immediately. And I'm going to read this initial message for you because doesn't have names or anything else on it. But this was his message on Sunday. He reached out and said, like I said, this last Sunday, he said, sending with a VPN active on Wi-Fi only. Do not message me. I will send out updates via both Signal and email, but trust me, you're going to want to be involved. Well, first of all, no, I didn't want to be involved. Anyways. And then, so I didn't message. I responded back to his original Instagram message. And I said, hey, I got your message on Proton Mail. And he said, cool, delete this. So I deleted it. That's how I ended up getting this message on Tuesday. So the message that this right here, this manifesto, if you want to call it that, came in on Tuesday. And when I started reading this, my initial take was, okay, this is off the deep end. It's bonkers. I can't validate or verify any of the stuff in this manifesto. Mm-hmm. And I told him that in a subsequent email. And I'll read that to you later, my response to him. And once again, my response to him elicited, hey, get me in contact with Sean Ryan, Fox News, and he even said Pete Hegseth. Get me in contact with Hegseth. And I'm like, dude, I don't have an incoming Secretary of Defense phone number. Sorry, bro. It was, I didn't mean anything about it. I was just being humorous for my audience. And I said, my inbox was especially eventful today. Allegations of war crimes, government anti-gravity technology. This is huge. This is all over the news. And then I was like, well, dude, this guy wanted to get in contact with Sean Ryan. So let me get this to Sean Ryan, see if I can get with him. And I had a buddy who knew your producer and we went from there. But
Wow. Do you want to read the email?
Yep. So this
this is the actual email that was sent to this guy Sam Shoemate a day before he rented the Tesla truck and did whatever he did. Let's listen to the letter.
Came in on December 31st at 10:42 a.m. That is Tuesday. He said, in case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones, he puts that in quotes, he says drones, is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the US. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operation Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this
Okay, so now we get into the drones. Like, if y'all been lost, there's been a whole lot of activity in the skies starting in November all the way up to after Christmas. And as far as I know, it's still going on, but it was all over the internet, especially TikTok, for a good little bit. And so he's talking about the drones in this letter. Let me go back a little bit.
activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from Submarine Operations Center. Our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box. Quotes. He says drones is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPSEN, that's Operations Center, our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they used the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comm system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed.
Is he saying that China is responsible for the drones?
Basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. U.S.
Wow. Checkmate.
Which are also part of the integrated comm system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. U.S. government.
And I did see some of those drones over the White House, actually. Over White House. I did see those drones over the White House. There was where's the video? They probably wiped it. Let me see what this one was.
They say money can't buy happiness. Look at that.
You made a great
Yeah.
Mayor in New Jersey is raising concerns and demanding answers after mysterious drones have been spotted lighting up the night sky. Joining us tonight is New Jersey Mayor Sam Morris from Mine Hill to talk about what has become a really bizarre situation, Mayor. White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby has said there is no evidence to show drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat. As you know, he also said they have no foreign nexus. So what was your first thought when you heard all of that?
Oh, I was pretty angry, but you know, when he says, "Oh, there's no evidence," we haven't seen that evidence. They haven't shared one document, one email, one anything with them. They come down. If they weigh 50 pounds and they're falling from 300 feet, that's not going to be good for whoever's underneath of it. So I really think Mr. Kirby's statement today was pretty stupid.
We have heard.
Yeah, I don't know what they got going on, but let's get back to
the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive V-bid. Let me pause right there for a second. So he says a massive V-bid. When I was talking to the FBI yesterday, they didn't know what a V-bid was. I had to explain what that acronym meant, literally.
You fucking serious?
Dead serious. I said it twice, and he goes, "You said that word V-bid. Can you tell me what that is?" For your audience, a V-bid, for your audience who has not been in the GWAT for the last 20 years,
what is a V-bid?
Is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. In layman's terms, a car bomb, what we saw at Trump Tower.
Okay.
So, backing up, he says, "I am armed and have a massive V-bid. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me." Here's where he gets into the other stuff, and this is where we had to redact the names. Well, your producer redacted the names. "I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas, that's civilian casualties. They killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA and Agent Redacted of the DEA, so I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with Redacted IO staff on this as well as the response to Bala.
That's not redacted. That says I work with General Miller's. Now, a name has been put out there.
Redacted commander at the time. Redacted.
That's not redacted either. Responded to Bala Mahar Morgab, AOBS commander.
Can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. Then he says, for vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty 18 Zulu out of 110, that's 1st Battalion 10th Special Forces Group. My profile is public. I have an active TSSCI with UAP, USAP access.
What is USAP? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is. But I checked his credentials on LinkedIn. So that was the first thing I did. I went to his LinkedIn page. First thing I noticed was all of his bona fides were in place. He has all the UAS training from USASOC and everything else. And so I said, okay, at least the guy knows what he's talking about with drones. That was a very rough dig into the guy. But my issue was I couldn't validate or verify any of this information. And I told him that. And how I responded to him was in a subsequent email. I said, this is obviously a very big deal, but I don't have anything to verify this information with. Talking about gravitic propulsion systems without evidence just makes me another UFO talking head. Like, I'm not going to go on my social media page and start talking about UFOs and anti-gravity systems and everything. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't. And he said, can I get on Fox News Contact on Signal as well as Sean's show? Hegseth would be good too. That was his last message to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, what is a gravitic propulsion system?
All right, so this guy Matthew Livensberg, he sent this guy this letter, and then he went on to do whatever he did at Trump Towers in Vegas. So let's go back to that.
Major developments in the investigation into the man behind the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas.
Suspected of using explosives to blow up that Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, left behind notes found on his cell phone, providing clues to a possible motive.
And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took.
Officials confirming that...
Okay, so this is the problem I have. Where does the Tesla and Trump Towers come into play at? Because according to the letter, he basically was upset about something that happened, when he was, on the Call of Duty or whatever, and he unalived a bunch of civilians, which was supposed to be a war crime, and they covered it up. But I know it didn't happen while Trump was in office because there was no wars while Trump was in office. So what was the connection with the Tesla? Because that was symbolism. That was symbolic. The Tesla in front of the Trump Towers. That's
at
symbolic.
7:35 a.m. Wednesday before pulling out, returning, and
so he went in there before and then went back and does this. And not only that, but the Tesla is bulletproof. We all know that, right? The Tesla is bulletproof. So he knew that whatever he had blow up on the inside, it wasn't going to do nothing to not much anyway. It wasn't going to do much to the Trump Towers. So, excuse me. So it's all still symbolic because he's ex-military or current military, whatever. So he knows how to do it correctly where he would have really, hurt some people and did some damage to the building, but he chose not to. Not only did he chose not to, he went an extra step by getting a bulletproof vehicle, which happens to be a Elon Musk Tesla truck. I'm trying to connect the dots. I don't get it. Let me see. Hold on. Let's see if Sean Ryan can connect the dots. Let's see.
Lineup. One is, like I had mentioned, well, let's talk about the guy's story. Obviously, he had a VBID. Obviously, he was in the military and served. And the thing that he was talking about in 2019, we pulled a report. This is from October 9th, 2019. UN report find alleged drug facilities were not lawful target airstrikes caused significant civilian casualties. The United Nations Special Report, which examines the impact on civilians of the United States airstrikes on alleged drug processing facilities on 5 May 2019 in Afghanistan, determines the operation caused a large number of civilian casualties. The report also examines the legal framework applicable to this incident. In June 2019, the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan, together with representatives of the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, conducted a site visit to areas impacted by the strikes in Farah Province, Bakwa District, as part of its extensive fact-finding into the 5 May incident. The UN verified 39 civilian casualties, among them 14 children, 1 woman, from multiple airstrikes on more than 60 sites that the United States Afghanistan identified as drug production facilities in Bakwa District and in parts of neighboring Delaram District of Nimraz Province. Moreover, the UN is working to verify credible reports of at least 37 additional civilian casualties, the majority of whom were women and children. Although airstrikes on the alleged drug processing facilities had taken place before, this was the first time that UNAMA had received reports of large number of civilian casualties resulting from such an operation. And it goes on. I'm not going to read all this. We'll link the article here. But so that 100% lines up. The other thing, that really struck me is, like I had mentioned, after our phone call, I jumped in an interview. After the interview, checked my phone, and I had several Green Berets, former Green Berets, one still active. Actually, I'm just going to say it was Tim Kennedy sent me a message late last night about 9 p.m. and said, hey, I should have brought my phone up here, but hey, basically that the USASOC wants to give me more context on what had happened on this guy. And so, message from somebody that says, no, you're an excellent operator, was moving on, was moving towards retirement and moving on to basically.
So what I'm doing, I'm trying to find
warfare.
Where everything connects, especially when it comes to the truck.
Officer, sounds like almost jokingly said, which I don't know why you would joke about this, said that, well,
I don't really want to, play the whole interview. If you really want to go deep into this and you guys can figure out before I do, like how the connection comes in with the Tesla truck and Trump or whatever, if you find out before me, let me know. But definitely go check out the interview on Sean Ryan's show. The Sam Shoemate interview on the Sean Ryan show. All right, so speaking of Sean Ryan show, like I said, the Sarah Adams interview, she is causing a bunch of controversy too. Like, this is, how many views it got? Okay, there are 1.6 million views for this interview, right? So you got, you got the biggest interviewers or podcasts that's out there right now is basically the Sean Ryan show, the Joe Rogan show, and then you have Club Shay Shay, I guess. So those are the top interviews for 2024 anyway. But Sean Ryan is kicking it off with a bang in 2025. But yeah, so hold on. So Sarah Adams, she is a CIA targeter. What a CIA targeter is, after doing my research, I found out is when they hear a threat, when they find out there's a threat of something, that is will affect national security. She is like one of the people that she has to find out who is bringing this threat. Who's the exact person? So let's say, for example, the Twin Tower situation, she would be the one to find out that it was Osama bin Laden. She would no matter who like came out to admit it was them, or she would be the one to confirm, like, this is who it is and this is how we know. You know what I mean? So that's what a CIA target is. Don't ask me how I know.
More popular ones that's out right now is ISIS put one out to do with the Paris Olympics. So they said, hey, go to where crowds are in Paris. We don't care if you...
So with these attacks that are just happening, especially the ones with the truck in New Orleans, there's a lot of talk about sleeper cells. There's been talk about sleeper cells a whole lot in the last few years. And for those who don't know what a sleeper cell is, that is a person that's here in the country legally, that their ultimate goal is to do something domestically violent to the country. So that's what a sleeper cell, but they could be anybody. They could be your barber. They could be your, they could be the guy at the bodega. They could be the guy that runs the gas station. That's why they call it a sleeper cell, because you don't know, you can't tell who they are just by looking at them. Like they can have a family. They could be your neighbor. They could cut your grass every weekend. But their ultimate goal is, when it's time for them, when they're given the green light, is to attack.
Turning on now. Do you have any insight into that?
Sure. If we just focus on the Al-Qaeda camps. So in Afghanistan right now, there's 30 Al-Qaeda training camps. 7 of them are suicide bomber only. So 7 of them, you're only in it to be a suicide bomber. The rest of them, it's just your standard. Like I said, there's an urban warfare camp, which I think is for a specific threat. But there's just your usual weapons. There's actually driving training. It's what you'd expect. There is not the IED making, that type of stuff. There's not like a new training piece, if that makes sense. But
same old tactics that we've seen in the war that are coming, but now everybody in America is going to see these tactics carried out at some point.
Yeah, correct. Because remember, back when we had a war with Afghanistan, it was like that country had the weakest passport in the world.
I'm sorry, but that chair looks so comfortable, man. Nice legs, too.
World, right? Now everyone's trying to save Afghans. So all these foreigners now have Afghan passports and nobody knows they're Afghan. And as we've learned, everyone drops their IDs at the border anyway. You don't know if someone's Iraqi, Syrian, Afghan. I mean, there is like no vetting of these people, right? We don't even know who these people are. And we're not going to be able to vet them anyway, as you can imagine. So if you have 30 new Al-Qaeda training camps, these are all new recruits. Like, people don't understand this, right? This is Mohammed, never been a terrorist in his whole life. His fingerprints aren't in any system. His photo's not in a system. He's not on a U.S. watch list. He's not marked as a terrorist. Even when we have terrorists on watch lists, I think a lot of people don't understand. A terrorist on a watch list does not mean we can get them at a border. So like a really good example is, we talked about Mullah Burader in the past, who I caught. So he spent many years in Pakistan. So in Pakistan, he lived there with a Pakistani passport under a Pakistani identity. So his name is Mohammed Arif, okay? Now, if you look at his Pakistani passport, and he would take that to the southern border. No one would ever know he's Mullah Bereder, right? Because the U.S. government had an estimated date for him, so you don't have a date of birth. And then his passport in Pakistan only has a year of birth. I think it was like 1963. That's not useful. The name on the passport's different, so the name you have on watch listed isn't going to matter. The father's name on the passport's different. The nationality on the passport's different, right? So there is no way, if he came to the border as one of the most top 21 terrorists in the world at the time, he would have come in right just fine, and no one would have known they let a terrorist in.
Wow. Man, are you aware of any camps within the U.S., any of these sleeper cells?
I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, so now let's get into the sleeper cells. Let's go.
Any camps. At least what I know is they're pre-training. At least Al-Qaeda's pre-training. One of the guys we're following is actually doing the passports. Do you want me to get into that
Let's
right
do
now?
it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So obviously last time I was on the show, I told you we just found out one of our top 10 attackers at the Benghazi attacks was in Afghanistan. His name is Hamza al-Darnawi.
Okay, listen. Before we get into this, I want y'all to understand something. This woman is telling government secrets on this guy's podcast. Government secrets that everyone in the world can see, even our enemies in other countries can watch this and literally break down what she knows and how the government is operating and what the government knows and doesn't know. And it's like she's showing the other team that she knows their playbook, which gives them an opportunity to change their playbook. So from what I understand, Sean Ryan had went dark, but we'll get into that later.
We started following him in September, and while following him, we found actually the number one target of our investigation. So we've never made the number one target of our investigation public. So this will be the first time anyone actually hears about him. So when we went to investigate the Benghazi attacks, we had two goals, right? Bring the attackers to justice and stop them from killing anyone else. So he's the number one target for stopping them from killing anyone else. So this individual, his name is Abdul Azim Ali Musa Ben Ali, long name. And then if you're Libyan, he's from the Al-Darsi family. He doesn't use the Al-Darsi as part of his name, but legally it could be. So we just call him Musa for short, me and Boone. So back in the day, he fought like everyone with Al-Qaeda in the Mujahideen era. And then he became a clandestine officer in Al-Qaeda. So what we did in our investigation, we're like, hey, he thinks he's kind of like this undercover CIA guy in Al-Qaeda. Let's follow him that way. So we've never shared publicly that we're following him. The really interesting part is he's had one job forever in Al-Qaeda, and it is to make the fake travel documents for Al-Qaeda's external operatives. So he started all the way back in Afghanistan back in the day. He made the documents for our Benghazi attackers. So we've talked. So what a lot of people don't get is when our Benghazi attacks happen, then a huge chunk of the terrorists went to the airport and got on airplanes. They thought the U.S. military was going to come in and rain hell on Benghazi. They left. So that all their passports were made in advance. A lot of people don't understand this. And actually, one of the people with the fake passports, he was an Al-Qaeda and Iraq guy, got captured in Turkey. And the crazy part is the U.S. didn't ask to extradite him. He got sent to Tunisia, and then he got released, and then our government...
I'm going to fast forward to... something that was important that needs to be heard. The American funding part.
U.S. is funding terrorist organizations.
Perfect.
Specifically, U.S.
government in Kabul ended up with AQIM in Africa. Just think about that. Our U.S. dollars that we sent bundled on airplanes. So as you can imagine, that got me pissed.
Yeah.
It's like, I've already complained about you funding our attackers, and now like you're funding like basically like you're still funding them like a decade later, and you're just basically like doing it through Afghanistan. So then, as you can imagine, we started looking into how it happened.
Let's get into the money.
Mm-hmm.
This is the section I've been waiting on.
Yes.
Let's get into how the U.S. is funding terrorist organizations.
Perfect.
Specifically, you want to start with Taliban?
Yeah, I mean, it'll all go connect. So
Okay.
this is just to be a long response probably, but I want to talk about the buckets of money first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, please do.
So there's 3 big buckets of money, and then we focused on the third. So the first bucket of money it was $7 billion, and this was just basically the bank reserves the government of Afghanistan owned when it fell. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it was offsite, right? It was here. So $7 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what the US government has done with this $7 billion is they split it in half and said, we're going to give $3.5 billion to the victims of 9/11. If anyone from victims of 9/11 have gotten any of this $3.5 billion, which is earning insane interest monthly, please let me know, because I've yet to meet someone besides lawyers who made any money. So someone needs to be on this $3.5 billion that the U.S. siphoned off and figure out where it is, what's happening to it, and what people are doing with it. So we didn't even look into that piece. So the other $3.5 billion got taken and put in a Swiss bank account. This is so what we saw from. So in Libya, there was $200 billion that went missing, okay? Completely different situation. $200 billion of Gaddafi's money is like gone. So we get very concerned when something moves to Switzerland. So $3.5 billion moves to Switzerland, and now this is given to the Taliban. So the $3.5 billion belongs to the Taliban government. It's overseen by 4 individuals in Switzerland, a State Department officer, which is crazy. Like, I could see Department of Treasury, Commerce, like put a real money person on it. So a State Department officer, a Swiss diplomat, and then 2 Afghans. One Afghan kind of makes sense. He was basically the head of their finance department way back when, kind of when the Taliban first started taking over. He at least has a background. And then the last Taliban guy, it's very strange. I don't like to say rumors, but there might be some sort of nepotism that got them into that role. And the nepotism might involve family connected to our envoy. So we have an envoy to Afghanistan, Tom West. Lots of issues involving him and his sympathies towards the Taliban. Even after the fall of Afghanistan, he actually said, we will do anything at all costs to recognize the Taliban. So this is the broker we have, right? He'll do anything at all costs to recognize the Taliban? Are you kidding me, right? So this guy's already a problem. So these are the people. So it's just these 4 people overseeing this $3.5 billion. It's already earned like over 180 million in interest. And then, so I've asked around to see, has the Taliban taken any money from it? And then I get mixed responses. Some people say they haven't touched it. Some people say, well, we think they paid they owed the Uzbekistan all this money for it's kind of like electricity bills. And they did pay off Uzbekistan. Some say it came from that money, some say they don't. The interesting part in the Uzbekistan piece is the Taliban is paying them off and clearing those debts. Because if you remember, it was like around June of 2021, before the fall of Kabul, the U.S. military actually told the pilots, hey, in case of emergency, fly the planes to Uzbekistan. That's why all those planes flew to Uzbekistan. U.S. military texted and told Afghan pilots to do that. So all these planes, as you can imagine, are still sitting in Uzbekistan, and the Taliban want the planes back, right? So they're trying to make nice with Uzbekistan to give the planes back. Like, Uzbekistan, don't give the planes back. So anyway, so that's that. So anyway, 3.5 million Taliban has access to, okay?
Billion.
Billion.
Can I ask who's the State Department official overseeing this?
So let me get this straight. The government is paying the Taliban terrorists $3.5 billion. And the Taliban is using the money to train their military to attack us. Make it make sense. I don't get it. Make it make sense.
I don't know the name of the State Department person.
Do you think it's it's obviously a Taliban sympathizer, correct?
Most likely. So that's that. I didn't really look at that money because obviously the 3.5 billion is not where the money came from AQIM, right? So then there's a second pocket of money, which everyone tells us is the 40 million a week that comes on the airplane and comes into Afghanistan. The interesting part is I was like, well, is it 40 million a week, right? Because you got to ask these questions because, there's not been a lot of honesty. So the plane comes in weekly. The amount of money on the plane weekly is 43 million to 87 million. Like, that's a big stretch. If you tell me it has 40 million on the
plane. So, wait a minute. So y'all flying 43 million to 80 million a week from America, taking our money and taking it over to them to do whatever they want to with it. Just imagine if this country invested 40 million a week into the black communities.
Plane is arriving with $87 million. So let's just talk about the 40 million piece. So that 40 million piece gets taken from the plane. It's brought to like Afghanistan International Bank, which, as you can imagine, is making so much money off the exchange of this insane amount of money weekly. And then it's supposed to then go all to humanitarian aid, right? It's obviously not happening that way.
Wait, humanitarian aid? Wait a minute. Where's the new humanitarian aid for the black people? This shit making my head hurt. Because it's like money is just being thrown around. And I know we talk about reparations so much. It's like, what's the point of even talking about it? It's obvious they don't want to give it to us. That's obvious. We're not going to get it. So the question is, are we always going to be at the bottom? Or are we going to figure out a way how to make it an even playing field? That's the question. Because we just watching them just throw away money that we don't even have access to. We can't even touch it. But they got it to just throw it like it's a strip club. So, I don't know.
70% is getting siphoned off and going to Taliban-only causes, and the majority of that is to the Taliban military. So the way the Taliban's doing it, I mean, they're doing the most basic thing like bribes, but that doesn't get you to 70%. Then they've done this thing where every NGO that collects money from this pot of the 40 million has to have a Taliban representative basically like on their board. So Taliban has complete control as a board member of where the money goes. The last part, which is the smartest thing they did, is, as you can imagine, there's a lot of these long-standing NGOs in Afghanistan the State Department has relationships with. Well, Taliban just went in and gutted them completely and put all Taliban in them. So State Department will say, oh, we've had a 12-year relationship with them. We have this record. And they're not being honest and telling you, oh, well, the NGO we had a relationship with, none of them work there anymore, and it's all now just Taliban. So that's the key way they're siphoning this money. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that bucket, but one thing I want Americans to understand is in that bucket of the 40 million we send each week, we are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' families. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the U.S. government is paying them a stipend, the family. So our family...
What? Let me play that again.
Taliban representative basically like on their board. So Taliban has complete control as a board member of where the money goes. The last part, which is the smartest thing they did, is, as you can imagine, there's a lot of these long-standing NGOs in Afghanistan the State Department has relationships with. Well, Taliban just went in and gutted them completely and put all Taliban in them. So State Department will say, oh, we've had a 12-year relationship with funding like our enemies. So
Well, I think that's a huge problem.
I asked a couple of people that question straight out, like, do you not think this is not ethically correct? And actually one person gave me an answer of, well, it'll stop them from joining ISIS. I'm like, the Taliban guy's already dead. Paying Taliban families for paying them a stipend money. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that bucket. But one thing I want Americans to understand is in that bucket of the 40 million.
I just want to make sure I heard this correctly.
We send each week, we are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' families. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the U.S. government is paying them a stipend, the family. So our families of Americans who died there aren't getting squat, but
neither are the families of the slaves that were unalive during slavery. We ain't getting squat either. So if you ain't getting squat, we ain't getting squat. Why should they be getting squat? Make it make sense.
We are paying Taliban families for basically dying while attacking us.
Whoa.
All right. Yeah. So y'all make sure y'all go check this interview out with the CIA target, Sarah Susan, I forgot her name, Sarah Adams. And on the Sean Ryan Show, make sure you like and subscribe on his podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe mine as well. We're going to move on over to the next situation, next subject, see what else is going on.